Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something, well, pretty bold. It's a proposal we've dug into from our sources, aiming high, right at the top of government. We're doing a deep dive into Joel Salatin's idea for a food emancipation proclamation. Our goal here is to figure out what this thing would actually do, who benefits, and why its supporters think it could, totally reshape the American economy. And this isn't just talk. Our sources show it's an active pitch. They're trying to get face time with political leaders to push this massive overhaul of food rules.
Yeah, and let's get straight to the heart of it. What this proposed proclamation would do, essentially, is legalize food sales directly between neighbors or between the producer and the final customer without needing government inspection or, permission. It basically takes the state out of that direct transaction.
Okay, so dissolving the rules specifically where the farmer meets the buyer, that almost sounds like common sense, doesn't it? Like, why can't I just buy eggs or a pie from the farm down the road? What's actually stopping that now?
Well, the issue, according to Salatin's writing, is just this enormous pile of food regulations. He calls it a plethora. They're set up for huge industrial companies, but they hit the small guy just as hard, maybe harder. The source calls it a mile-high stack of food regulations between the farm and, say, convenience food.
And that stack, crucially, makes it way too expensive for small farms or people just starting out. We should probably explain why. It's not just filling out forms, is it?
Oh, definitely not. The sources really emphasize that compliance is the killer cost. If a young farmer wants to sell something more than raw produce like processed chicken, cured meat, maybe even cheese, they often need facilities built to corporate standards. We're talking expensive stainless steel setups, specific drains, complex safety plans, HACCP plans that cost thousands just to write and keep up, plus mandatory inspections. It adds up fast.
Yeah, the price tag for that official permission slip is often so high it just slams the door shut. Creates a kind of regulatory barrier, a moat around the market. Which means those simple things we think should be simple, selling a chicken pot pie to your neighbor, raw milk from your own cow, maybe some homemade pepperoni from your pig, those often get caught up, even criminalized, by these expensive rules. It's kind of wild to think basic commerce needs federal sign-off, but that's what the source argues happening. And this has really shaped how Americans eat, right?
Oh, absolutely. Massively. The source points out, historically, the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker were right there in the village on the farm trading with neighbors.
Yeah.
But now, something like 75% of the food Americans eat is convenience food. And the rules, by making that next step, the processing, too costly for small farmers, basically lock them out of that convenience market. They can grow this stuff, sure, but they can't afford to turn it into the ready-to-eat meals or specialty items people want to buy locally.
Okay, so if the idea is to just remove the government permission step entirely for these direct sales, we hit the obvious question, what about safety? Accountability. If there's no inspector, what fills that gap?
Right, and the source argues the food system needs to catch up with the 21st century. It needs to embrace what they term self-vetting through direct market interactions. The core idea is that centralized, kind of old-school regulation is being replaced everywhere else by trust systems built on real-time feedback.
They use a key analogy here, don't they? Pointing to Uber and Airbnb.
Exactly, showing how real-time vetting and credibility could be created. The concept is to bring commerce back into what they call a village voice, using ratings and reviews to manage quality and safety.
But hold on a second. Is that really the same thing? Uber and Airbnb, okay, a bad rating might mean a messy car or a delayed ride. But with food, we're talking potential health risks, foodborne illness. Does the source tackle that difference where reputation suddenly carries a much heavier weight?
That's definitely the critical point to push on. But the proponent's argument is that risk is actually managed better hyper-locally. They'd say the current industrial system, even with regulation, has these huge recalls affecting millions. Compare that to a farmer selling to, say, 10 neighbors. If there's a problem, the feedback loop is instant, it's localized, and it's absolutely devastating to their reputation, which, in this trust-based model, is everything they have. So the source argues that putting commerce back into that immediate reputation-driven environment creates more effective real-time accountability than waiting for a government inspector who might only show up once a year. The consumer, effectively, becomes the main regulator.
That definitely shifts the responsibility, doesn't it? Right back to the consumer and the community. And we need to really stress the limits of this proposal. It's not about deregulating everything everywhere.
Absolutely critical point. The proclamation is strictly for direct neighbor-to-neighbor or producer-to-end-user food sales. The source is very, very clear. This is not about making things easier for big exporters. It's not about changing rules for Walmart or Kroger. The focus is intensely local. The only transaction getting this government permission waiver is that final direct sale to the person eating it.
Okay, so if the trust part is handled by reviews and reputation, what about the economic impact? The source claims some pretty huge effects from just letting people sell, say, homemade sausage to their neighbors.
Hughes is right. They're talking about a massive economic boost for agriculture. The source literally says it would suddenly provide billions of dollars to small and startup farmers.
Billions from local sausage sales. How does that math work?
Well, the argument is that by removing that regulatory moat, that massive upfront cost, just to be compliant, you unleash all this pent-up entrepreneurial energy. You create what they call an expressway avenue of entry into farming and food making. Suddenly, thousands of tiny businesses could pop up, unlocking capital and creating value-added products that just can't exist right now because of the costs.
And for the rest of us, the consumers, the claim is this new local competition would drop food prices dramatically. It's that classic free market idea, right? More competition, lower prices, applied at the very local level.
Exactly, and the argument goes beyond just economics. It jumps right into politics. The proponent ties this directly to all the talk we hear about corporate power, consolidation, monopolies. They basically say this kind of deregulation is the real way to fight the oligarchy that figures like AOC and Bernie Sanders are concerned about. The idea is that complexity, that mile-high stack of rules, actually helps the big guys, the established players. It protects them. Simplicity and freedom, letting anyone start selling right away, that's the advantage for the little guy, the startup farmer.
So the political goal isn't more government control or breaking up big companies. It's the opposite. Stopping consolidation through grass entrepreneurial freedom in the food sector. You fight corporate power by taking away the regulatory shield that keeps small competitors out.
That's the core argument, yeah.
Yeah.
And the source uses some really powerful language here. They say the Food Emancipation Proclamation would de-enslave and unshackle our food system. Unshackle it from what they call the corporate governmental fraternity that protects the powers that be. And in their view, that fraternity is the alliance between big food corporations and the regulatory system itself, which ends up crushing small competition, whether intentionally or not, just by being so complex and expensive.
Okay, so the argument boils down to identify the barrier, regulation, propose a new trust system, reviews, and predict huge positive changes, economic and political, from freeing up local sales.
Right. So what does it all mean? Essentially, the source is saying the answer to big corporate control in food isn't more top-down rules, but the opposite. Empowering hyper-local, decentralized trust. It's asking people, asking you, to potentially value a direct relationship with a known producer, vetted by community reviews, more than you value the assurance of a distant government agency.
It really is a fundamental shift in how we think about safety and who's responsible. So here's the final thought to chew on. If those neighbor-to-neighbor food sales were governed just by ratings and reviews, not government checks, how does that change your role as a consumer? How much responsibility does that put on you to check those reviews, to understand the risks, to ensure the quality and safety of what you buy? Are we ready as consumers to swap centralized oversight for decentralized reputation? That's the big question this proposal leaves you with.